Good morning. LJ here with a topic that's kind of a tough one, right? Something that plagues some of us for a lifetime. And although in some ways I've almost stayed away from talking about yoga for weight loss, it is something that I get asked about all the time. And I know that it's something that is part of a lot of us in what we're struggling with, right? And something that we're feeling challenged with, and something that we've tried lots of things that haven't worked. And so this whole idea, I'm ready to share some of what I've noticed, what I find, and yeah, want to offer as far as what I see, how our yoga, our connecting practices of all sorts, really can help us lose weight and even shift, change, improve our relationship with food, right? Because that's one of the major bummers of the approach in so many ways with this thing called weight loss, which I want to address why I'm putting quotes around that. And pretty quick here, I'm going to stop calling it that. But yeah, because food and even nourishment is so important, right? And it's such a fun part of life. And it really just sucks, right? Like literally sucks the energy out of our joy of life to feel like it needs to be this battle or this thing that we need to be more even disciplined about, or, really fighting ourselves on, or just giving up on, but feeling terrible about, right? Yeah. So again, this is really just coming from my heart, my learning, my work with others to share with you what I'm finding works, because some of it might surprise you. And I feel like a lot of it is really good news and empowering news. And if you don't know by now, I'm all about helping you bring in some of this to your daily life right now and your own practices with yourself and your own ways of self-care, because that's what it comes down to, right? Even when we get the help of amazing practitioners around us, I know that all of the practitioners around us now are going to eventually encourage us to turn it into like what we're doing with ourselves, to ourselves, to take care of ourselves, right? In the name of self-care and even health, and even these things like our relationship with food and where we're at in the whole spectrum of weight, right? And so, yeah, first of all, the reason why I don't want to call it losing weight, because there is a psychology to yoga too. And part of the psychology to yoga is recognizing the importance of the mind and words, right? And energy and imagination and perception and attention and focus, and learning from other psychology people around us, right? So we realized that even calling it losing weight doesn't work, because when the brain hears lose, it gets scared and right away wants to hold on and resist, right? And so this whole idea of losing weight, calling it losing weight, we now know actually already sets us up to not be as likely to succeed. So I like to call it maybe lightening up, maybe normalizing our weight, right? If we can see that we're doing things to facilitate helping our body get back to more of a normalized weight, if it's about the actual scale, which I'm realizing how we don't even have a scale in our house, and for a good reason, right? Once in a while I might check in on how much I actually weigh, but I think it's more about how we feel, right? So, but this idea, if we do feel like we want to lighten up, if we do have a sense that we really could and would like to shift our relationship with food, much less with our bodies, right? And yeah, feel good and feel like it could even get better. And that's another mind piece that we want to bring up too, that we want to look at our beliefs about this stuff. And this is all part of what I would say is a yoga approach. So if we believe, for instance, that at a certain age our metabolism is just getting worse, and it's because we're getting old, which if you're not 80 or 90 or 100, I don't think we have any room to call ourselves old, right? Because if you realize, if we get lucky enough to live to 100, why the heck would we decide we're old at 50, even 60, right? So that's just not true. It's just not true. And if your metabolism is slowing, then it's probably more about what you're doing or not doing to facilitate that, right? So getting rid of those beliefs about aging being part of why you're holding on to weight, and that because of your age, you have some limitation to what is possible here, right? So I'm going to encourage you to just toss that out the window, right, as part of a yoga approach too, because yoga, remember, means union, connection, to join. And yoga is a whole bunch of different practices, perspectives, but really most of all, a system of psychology. So that's where a lot of these things might surprise you in what a yoga approach would be in actually making a shift in our experience with our bodies and our weight, and feeling like we can lighten up and that we can feel better and that we can even do it in a feel good way, right? That it doesn't have to be about torturing ourselves or limiting ourselves. And that's the other good reason to consider this, because a lot of us have been doing some pretty non-loving things with our bodies, right, in the name of lightening up. So it's actually serious business, right? When we look at what's been done in the name of lightening up, in the name of losing weight. But now we know that too, that when we're doing things with ourselves, to ourselves, that are actually more like self-hate, right? And even the ways that we're probably talking to ourselves and feeling about ourselves because of maybe a lifetime struggle even with weight, or how we feel about our bodies, or how we experience food, right? And yes, that this idea of our relationship with food being able to change, because it is something in life, right, that we want to be able to enjoy, right? And yet it does seem to be about making good choices, right? But part of this shift is that in our yoga, right, we get so many ways, so many tools to help us just reconnect with ourselves, help us get more in tune with what is actually happening with us, what we are feeling, what we are going through, and helps us also to bring in more practices to deal with that. So you can start to see that, yes, maybe some of us are using food in other ways to soothe ourselves, right? To comfort ourselves, to manage our energy, as a super interesting thing to be aware of. That's another yoga concept that really helps, is that as we realize and recognize, as the yogis have always taught, and now finally we're all embracing, that it's all energy, right? So even looking at the weight thing and the food thing as energy, and even looking at our relationship with food often being about how we might be trying to manage our energy, right? Through the use of food. And yeah, maybe in some ways that later we notice really didn't feel good or we'd rather have not done, right? So that's where, though, that underlying current with the yoga, that the non-judgment, the self-love that we're really building in, remembering, getting better at with all these practices, is going to be one of the biggest pieces that's going to help here, right? So as we start to change that inner dialogue, as we start to find more ways to get in touch with what we are feeling, what we are dealing with, find more ways to deal with those things, to feel our way through it, right? We always hear that too, that maybe we're using food to kind of feed our feelings or something, right? And so, yeah, but that on the flip side, we can imagine if we're doing more things to deal with our feelings, right? Whether it's just become more aware of our feelings, help us process our feelings, feel our feelings so that we can free and let go of feelings, right? Just get more in touch with what we are feeling, how we are feeling, and do more things to help ourselves feel better, right? Then we can start to see that we're less likely to look to food to be that thing, right? Less likely to use the food to manage our energy or to manage those feelings, because we're doing other things now, right? To manage that energy and manage those feelings, so that now our experience with food could be more maybe about what it could be. And also what I noticed too, through, all these practices of yoga. So we're talking about, yes, the time on the mat and what we might do with some of the magical poses can be super potent and powerful and huge. And yes, that is because we're addressing energy with these poses too. So that's where I think the misconception too, that a lot of us hear that yoga can be good for weight loss, right? And I think that's why a lot of the power hot yoga classes are super packed, right? Because a lot of us could envision like, oh yeah, okay, maybe that is the way yoga creates weight loss, if I just work my ass off, in a really hot room. And for some of us, that might be part of it, and the way we like to practice the poses, which is beautiful. But for a lot of us, it may be a very different use of the poses that's actually going to help us lose weight. For a lot of us, it might be more about starting with super relaxing poses, and poses that are a lot more about helping us address our energy. And it's actually going to be a lot more important to do a little bit each day than to do just a huge long class once or twice a week for some of these important reasons, because we see that it's managing our energy, right? And we see that it's a practice to tune into ourselves and to tune ourselves. So the more that we're doing it more like every day, it makes it that much more powerful and effective. But yes, beyond even the use of the mat practice and the use of the breath and the energy work we realize we're doing with all of that, the tuning energetically and the tuning in to ourselves, right? Which is part of the therapy and part of what's going to help us make this shift, because we do know a lot of it is because of how we maybe been using food, things like that as a way to cope, right, in life. And now we're just maybe making a decision we want to try other things, because maybe there's reasons we don't want to use food like that, even as much as we want to keep enjoying it, right? And we also know just we want to feel good in our bodies, right? And also feel like we can run and jump and play, which we could and should be able to for a lifetime if we're doing some of those daily things to help. And sure, movement helps, right? And it's part of it. And feeling good enough to even run and jump and play helps. So that's part of how we can use those poses too. And the use of breath and remembering how to breathe and how much that really helps the body get such a more full experience and even process better. We get to take care of the organs and the glands and really help the thyroid, which is one of those things a lot of us are hearing about. We get to normalize hormones with a lot of these. Could be the simplest, most relaxing pose. Really, it's not about like killing yourself to use the poses. But then also things like journaling, realizing that journaling is an amazing form of yoga. I'm one of those people on the planet sharing that. Journaling, totally a form of yoga and meditation, right? Because it's doing some more of that tuning for us. So, and you even hear more about food teachers, nutritionists, stuff, asking their clients to start to use a journal to document what they're eating, right? But you can also use that journals to start to get more in touch with yourself, right? Do a lot of that tuning, do a lot of that connecting that will help you make those shifts, right? And help you do some of that feeling your feelings, dealing with your feelings, letting go of your stuff you're ready to let go of. And all of these things are going to be part of what help you shift. And yeah, even seeing that often maybe that extra weight, if we feel like we do have extra weight on us that we just know we could feel and would like to be lighter, that often it is related to emotional stuff, right? And that's where it's beautiful if we can just start to love ourselves through that and just realize that and honor that and recognize that we've been through some stuff, all of us, and even sometimes that's us storing trauma, right? Which is just our body's way of trying to take care of us. But now we can address that, and that's where you can start to get into the more lovingly that you're willing to address this, and the more that you also keep remembering it's energy. It's just energy. It's just energy, right? And that's where it really helps us open up to the belief of what's possible here, right? And that's where you start to get into it. Really probably doesn't have to be about counting your calories, burning more calories. It could be just about more of this practices to help you connect, right? And do that tuning for yourself and to manage your energy, right? Which is one of the big pieces we get from the yoga world, is looking at it all as energy. And even that excess weight is just energy, right? That maybe you're holding on to extra energy, and it's about helping yourself gently, lovingly let that go. And back to the relaxing thing being actually so huge. This came up in my interview the other day with my friend Maria Mitzi, who is a transformational nutritionist who's like doing amazing work with people. But she too straight up teaches and has learned that the stress response totally messes up our bodies, right? We all know that now, right? But if we at all are interested in lightening up, it totally counteracts your body's natural even desire to get back to normal. Because when we have that stress response going on, the body's really in that fight or flight mode, which is all about hold on to everything just because we might literally die soon, right? Your body's reading that indicator of stress. So, but the beautiful thing is a lot of these tools, a lot of these relaxing poses, the use of the breath, the things like the meditation tools of all sorts, including the journal, can really help us shift that, right? And also really get that nervous system shifting more towards calm, just building in, relaxing, and that can help us lighten up. Can you imagine? Relax more and you'll lose weight. Lose weight, right? But again, remember when your brain hears lose, it's the same thing. It goes, I don't want to lose something. So again, I would encourage you, if this is something that feels like your thing right now, I would stop saying you want to lose weight and maybe say you want to lighten up. You want to change your relationship with food. You want to feel better, right? And yes, you want to be able to run and jump and play for a lifetime, which really is possible. And for some of us, it is because of physical pain stuff, right? That we've stopped running and jumping and playing, and maybe why we started to hold the weight differently. And that, again, is just something to love yourself through. And that's where certainly people like me are here to help you fix some of that so that you can get back to being able to run and jump and play in a way that feels fun, but that will also help you feel better and feel like you can be more at that normalized weight, right? And yeah, just beautiful to realize we can really be taking care of things like that thyroid. And we can do things every day that are going to help your metabolism keep feeling good, right? It doesn't have to just go downhill from here. So don't believe the hype, first of all. And do believe that you could shift this, even if this is something that you've been struggling with ever since you can remember, right? And just to love yourself through that, and maybe to be open to that it maybe is about more relaxing, more things that feel good, more things that help you reconnect with you, more things that help you reconnect, period. And for sure, even spiritually, if you like a spiritual life, that letting it be about more of your spiritually connected life. Yes. And things like pain, and someone just made a comment that she lives with fibromyalgia, can really, then we can even more so see why we might want to just do whatever we can to feel better, right? But yeah, I am fortunate to have gotten to work with a lot of people with things like fibromyalgia and seen how you can find some ways to really help yourself feel better through that, and build in some things each day to make it better and see some real differences. And yeah, so please reach out if there's some ways I can help you. Let's talk, because there's a lot possible in shifting those pain things, even if your docs might have told you differently, right? And it's not about things that are going to hurt or make you feel worse. It never should be. So yeah, so to listen to the body, not push the body in a way that hurts. I think that's also where a lot of us have learned to hate exercise because we think, and because we're making it something that's very disconnecting, right? So it also means anything we're doing movement-wise, we want to let it be a connecting experience, and we can make anything a form of yoga, really. And that's where it's nice to connect with what movement things can help you feel better. Find some of the magical, gentle poses that can help you shift the pain stuff, which is really important. I've been in chronic pain myself, and it's got its own psychology, and it really can disrupt life, right? So, yes, being aware of those pieces, and that's even part of what things like those journaling will help us, all these other practices will help us tune into what's actually going on. Yeah. And the thing like the thyroid is going on for a lot of people these days. And that's where you might just start to believe, nowadays by 40, thyroid shot, and that's just the thing. And I think it is important to look at why and make the shifts that we can, but we can also do a lot to take care of it, to make it better, and to, yes, listen to the body, take those indicators as a reason to make some shifts, but that absolutely doing it in a self-loving way and getting the right help to do it safely. And then, starting to build in some daily ways that you're taking care of yourself. that don't have to take all day, but that really will make a difference on all these realms, right? And just starting to see that now that you're tuning yourself more, now that you're making it even more about connection and what really reconnects you, that's what's really going to help you shift things like these health conditions, but also with this vid, with the focus on our experience of the weight thing, right? Wanting to lighten up, trying out all the ways that are offered, and maybe finding a way that really works, that's safe, that's sustainable, that's long lasting, that becomes about new ways that we are with ourselves for the rest of our lives, right? But luckily in ways that just feel better, help us, again, manage it all as energy. And best part is everybody around you will totally benefit, right? Because the more that you're doing to tune yourself, to feel better, to help yourself feel even healthier, and even to be able to run and jump and play with those people you love, right? And to enjoy a meal with the people you love, right? So if not just for yourself and your own experience of your life and your body and your life with food, right? Also for you and the people you love, so that you could, really play with what's possible and shifting that, and so that you could even free yourself if that has been something that's really been challenging you, making you hate yourself. Right? There's so much pain involved with this subject, and I know that. So, I hope this could be helpful if any pieces were. And please reach out if there's any ways that I can help you with some of more how you could use some of these many tools of yoga, right? And meditation that really work, especially when we personalize them and start using them more like every day. That's the rub, but that's the good news. Do a little bit each day and it can go really well. All right. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. I love you so much. Namaste.